This is Pollock coming to you from Underground Performance Gym in Ventura, California. We have one of those hardcore gyms in all over the country, and we specialize in personal training and nutrition for competition diets as well as just regular people as well. Today I want to talk specifically about nutrition as it relates to bodybuilding and health in general, but also specifically with people with conditions such as ulcerative colitis and Crohn's, which is something I have knowledge of myself because I've had both of those things. And I will talk about my history with dealing with those illnesses and diseases and how I've been able to work through them and continue bodybuilding. So to give you a little bit of background, I started training at 13 years old, and I was very successful as a competitive bodybuilder throughout my teen years, and winning the Teenage USA at 18, and then competing in Teen America at 18 and age 19. Shortly after competing in the Teen America at 19, I became instantly ill. And it wasn't like I had a long illness, well, at least not that I knew about. Several weeks after, I just got very sick and was literally having bowel movements, like just massive amounts of blood. Went to an emergency room, not knowing what was going on, and I was diagnosed with severe ulcerative colitis. And it was so bad that they wanted to remove my colon like almost immediately. But I checked into Kaiser, and they put me on something called total TPN, total parental nutrition. This is where they feed you through an IV and put me on massive doses of IV prednisone. And the idea was to leave my colon rest from having to digest anything, so hopefully it would heal somehow. So I laid in the hospital for about 4 or 5 months, and between the living on TPN and the massive IV prednisone, I literally wasted down to my bone structure. Kaiser their solution was to remove my colon and put an ileostomy on me, which is something at that age I never even dreamed about or heard of. I didn't even know what it was. Luckily, my mother found out about a Dr. Funkel's-Rude at UCLA, who was doing what was at that time deemed an experimental surgery called a pull-through surgery, where they basically remove your colon, but they take your small intestine and create sort of a mini colon and attach it back down to the rectum, and therefore you're not going to be normal, but at least you don't have an ileostomy. So I was able to get that surgery, and it was a 2-stage surgery where I did have to have an ileostomy when they originally created the small colon out of the intestine, and then I was hooked back up about 3 months later when that thing had a chance to heal. Basically, the downfall of having that surgery was that your colon recirculates water, and it stores waste. So basically, at that point, my small intestine goes straight to the bottom. So everything I would eat or drink would pretty much get digested and go right through me. However, that surgery did work, and I was able to eat normal again. I had no digestive problems for quite a long time and compete in bodybuilding, which actually initially I didn't think I could compete in bodybuilding because of the surgery. It was pretty traumatic, but after several years I continued weight training, and I did compete in bodybuilding with that pull-through surgery. Now, fast forward later in I would say it was 2004, so I was in my 40s, and something was wrong with me. I started having bloody bowel movements again all of a sudden, and went back to the gastroenterologist, and this time I was diagnosed with Crohn's. And I have ideas about what causes these things. A lot of it is genetic and hereditary. However, I do believe certain things can contribute to it, like stress, and even stress of different things that you might be doing bodybuilding related as well. And I've noticed that, I don't know if it's a higher percentage in the bodybuilding community than in regular people, but there's a high percentage of people in bodybuilding that seem to come down with these illnesses. So I was diagnosed with the Crohn's, and it was quite a lengthy process to get it under control. I originally had something called fistulas, which are basically small abscesses in your rectum, which are extremely painful. So I had to take Norco to deal with the pain for those things. And we tried different medications. I went through several medications, including Remicade, and I developed antibodies to those medications, and they really didn't, they worked for a period of time, but not really. So after several years of dealing with this, I finally figured out that the real key to being able, first of all, when you have these conditions, it's very hard to digest your food. So, like I said, you're not digesting your food well, so it's hard to keep weight on. Everything you're eating is going right through you. On the toilet almost all day. So I had to really learn that the real key, I believe personally, and I believe this is probably with everybody, is controlling your nutrition. Nutrition is the #1 factor in dealing with these conditions. And in bodybuilding, or even in life in general, I think nutrition is probably the hardest part for most people, just to maintain a good, healthy program. People have struggles losing weight, gaining weight, and just a hard time dealing with their nutrition. So I'm going to talk about what I found. I had to basically go through a process of elimination, of figuring out what foods caused what's called flare-ups. Flare-ups is when basically you activate the disease and you create bleeding and things like this. And for me, and I think this probably goes for a lot of people, the #1 food component that caused flare-ups for me was gluten. Anything with gluten would cause massive flare-ups and massive digestive problems. And when I say that, I mean it would last for several days at a time from just eating any gluten at all. So I finally figured out I had to go on a completely gluten-free diet. So a lot of people find this hard to do because they want to eat bread and pasta, and almost all carbohydrates that are served in restaurants or anywhere is some kind of bread product. So you have to get the idea in your head that you're just not going to eat gluten. And really, after being gluten-free for several years now, it's not that difficult. There's plenty of gluten-free alternatives. Obviously, I can eat rice, any kind of potatoes. There's gluten-free products made. So if you really want to do it, you can. It's hard to eat out. So personally, I very rarely eat out. And if I do, I have to be very selective of what I choose off a menu. Another thing was dairy. Now, dairy wasn't as bad for me as gluten, but it did cause some issues. When I was young, I was consuming a lot of dairy, and I didn't have problems with it, but I figured out dairy did cause me some digestive issues, so I had to basically cut out anything with lactose in it. So, like, there are lactose-free products, like I can use certain cheeses, like mozzarella cheese, doesn't have lactose in it, and I'm fine with that, doesn't upset me at all. But for the most part, I avoid dairy because, again, it'll cause flare-ups. So at one point, I was on the Remicade, and it seemed to be working for a while, and then, like I said, my body built up antibodies to it. It stopped working, and I started having a lot of issues with basically flare-ups, losing weight, having problems with digestion and everything. So I really had to get tight with my food. And one thing I learned is you can develop what's called food allergies. Food allergies is you become allergic to a food. Now, you might have food allergies, like you might already be allergic to gluten or something like that. But you can also develop a food allergy just from eating too much of a certain food all the time. So there was a time I was eating 20 egg whites a day. For many, many years I did that. And when the Crohn's got really bad, I started having a real problem with egg whites. Egg whites were setting me off. I don't know why that turned on. Let me just turn this off. It won't even let me turn this off. This stupid new phone. It's trying to make me go to some frickin' program. I can't turn the phone off. I'll turn the volume off. Okay, so let's see, where was I at? Okay, food allergies. So yes, I was just starting having real problems with egg whites. So it got to the point where for a period of time, I figured out not what foods that I couldn't eat, but what foods I could eat and didn't cause me problems. So there was several months, actually, almost a year, where I ate nothing but chicken and rice. That chicken and rice and vegetables, that was it. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, it was just chicken and rice. And those are still stays in my diet to this day. And of course, I had to get real creative with preparing my chicken because, eating dry chicken is no fun. So I learned I'm actually a pretty good cook, and I do what's called brining, where I soak my chicken in salt water for 20 minutes and let it absorb as fluid, and then I coat it with a little bit of olive oil, some seasonings, and then I bake it for 45 minutes. And because of the brining, it doesn't dry out, so my chicken is moist and tender. It's a lot easier to eat, and it's also a lot easier to digest like that. I found it digests better, it tastes better, so I got really good at making chicken. But I ate chicken and rice for almost exclusively for a long period of time. And a lot of people have a problem with this because I will tell you, even myself, there's a lot of work involved in that. I have to cook. The amount of food that I have to eat just to maintain my weight, I'm going through, at that point, about 30 chicken breasts a week. That's a lot of cooking. I was cooking 4 full trays of chicken breasts probably every 5 days. And I got my process down where I could do it, but most people, they want to just buy something on the go or fast food or, whatever is convenient. And obviously that's not convenient because you got to go to the store, you got to buy the chicken, you got to prepare the chicken, you got to cook the chicken, and then you got to, cut it up and do everything with it. So, but it's what I had to do. And rice, I found helped slows my digestion down, and so everything didn't go right through me, better than potatoes. I can eat potatoes, but rice works better. Originally, I got a rice cooker, and I was cooking rice in the rice cooker, but what I found out is, when you initially cook rice, it's fine in a rice cooker, but after refrigerating it, it changed the molecular structure of the carbohydrate, and old rice dried out is not very digestible, and it doesn't work well. So what I've gone to at Costco, they have these sushi rice bowls, and you can just microwave them for a minute and a half, and you have instant fresh sushi rice. And I use those almost exclusively for my carbohydrate right now. I also was able to eat corn tortillas, which I don't eat a lot of them, but that with a little bit of hummus, with my chicken and rice, it's a little bit more than just chicken and rice, so it's something to go with it. Vegetables, I would say bell peppers. I would cook my chicken with a lot of bell peppers on top of it, and just the frozen bell peppers. I put them all over the top of the chicken, throw it in the oven, and it all comes out cooked and done, and I have food for several days. So it is a process, and a lot of people would say, well, isn't that kind of boring? Don't you want to eat, other things? Well, I have choices. the choice is I can eat my chicken and rice, be healthy, be able to train, and not be going to the restroom all the time. Or I can eat a cheeseburger and mess up my digestion for literally 2 or 3 days. So at that point, it becomes the choice for me anyways is obvious to eat the chicken and rice. Also, I was faced with a decision where the surgeons wanted to, if my Crohn's got worse, they wanted to give me an ileostomy because that's their solution. And obviously, people can live with an ileostomy, but personally, as lifestyle, for me training the way I do, being able to squat heavy weights and things like that, you're not going to be able to do that with an ileostomy. So I've had many discussions with surgeons who would try to talk me into ileostomy. They've tried to talk me into it for years, and I've just told them straight out, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't want that. I'll rather eat chicken and rice. So what I've found when it comes to the nutrition is the simpler the better. So I keep it as basic as you can, not complicated, don't overcomplicate it. Now, one thing I've found that I can't eat is a cereal called Catalina Crunch, which is made with pea protein, and it has very little sugar. Well, that's another thing I'll mention. Sugar will definitely set off your Crohn's or colitis. So I avoid sugar as much as possible, plain straight sugar. So basically, obviously nothing high in sugar. Now with that said, with my Catalina Crunch cereal, I'll mix that with a little bit of almond milk. I take some collagen peptides, which are chocolate flavored, and I'll mix that with the Catalina Crunch cereal, and I put some blueberries in there, and I have myself a little sweet treat that I can basically eat, but it's pretty healthy, and it's very low in sugar, except for the blueberries, which are actually good for your digestion and good for health in general because they have a lot of antioxidants. So that's something I'll have like once a day, usually in the evening, something other to break the monotony of the chicken and rice. Now, when I create nutrition plans for a client, and I follow this myself as well, you have to take in a lot of different factors, such as, where they're at, what they're trying to accomplish, what foods they will tolerate and will not tolerate, and what foods they like to eat. Like I said, if you're in a situation where you have Crohn's or colitis, you're going to have to just give up things that you don't like unless you just want to be sick all the time. So like chocolate cake is just not an option for me. But when I build a nutrition plan, I use a program called VitaBot, and it's a program I've been using for several years, and I found it very easy to manage people's nutrition using this program because it's like a big calculator. So we start off getting what's called a DEXA scan, and a DEXA scan gives us the person's body composition, and it's fairly accurate from what I've seen. Some people claim it's not, but it's been pretty accurate with me and my training clients as well. And it basically tells you your lean body mass, your body fat percentage, and from that it calculates your RMR, your resting metabolic rate, which determines how many calories your body burns without activity. And from there you can calculate your BMR, which is how many calories your body burns every day, including whatever activities you're doing. These are important numbers to know because your lean body mass will determine how many calories you burn every day and also the amount of protein that you need. And protein is a key component in building muscle. So I usually go 1.5 grams of protein per pound of lean body weight. And it's very hard to determine somebody's lean body weight without a DEXA scan. You can look at someone and guess, but you're not going to be accurate. But the DEXA scan will give you an accurate lean body mass. Now, body fat percentage, the only reason that's important is if obviously someone's trying to lose weight and we know they have a certain amount of body fat on them, percentage-wise, and actual how many pounds of body fat they have, we can now determine our calories to be in a calorie deficit if we want to lose body fat. If you want to gain weight, you have to be eating more in a calorie surplus. If you want to lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit. So for me, most of the time, I try to be in a calorie surplus because I definitely don't want to lose any weight, which is very difficult to do, by the way, with eating clean food. It's really hard to get enough calories in to maintain my muscle mass at 220 pounds, fairly lean. I generally stay about 5% body fat. That's just my genetics and probably the way I eat. To do that, I have to eat an awful lot of protein, and it's a job. You definitely have to be dedicated to getting your meals in order to make this happen. So anyways, going back to the VitaBot program, once we have the DEXA scan, we plug that information into the program. And can we get the program up so I can show that? Okay, so let's click on the top right there in the middle, and that shows, okay, so there you can see we have the person's their actual weight, their desired weight based on our goals, what we're trying to accomplish, whether we want to lose weight or gain weight, their body fat percentage, and their RMR. And from this, it's going to give us a calorie range. The program automatically calculates a calorie range within to work with. And then from there, we can create the meal plan. So let's go to the meal plan. Okay, so you can see here, if for each meal, it adds up the total amount of calories, how many grams of protein, carbohydrates, and fats in each meal. And at the very bottom, at the end of the day, it adds up from all of the meals, how many total calories, how many grams of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And there's a formula we use to do this. Like I said, we would take 1.5 grams of protein per pound of lean body weight, and then we multiply the calories by 4, since there's 4 grams, there's 4 calories per gram of protein, and that's going to give us how many calories we're getting from protein. We subtract that from the total calories, and then the remaining calories that are left over, we'll divide that in half, and we'll take half those calories from carbohydrates and the other half from fats. So we calculate this all out, and then we start plugging in the foods. And I don't tell people necessarily what to eat. I might give suggestions, but we'll go over all the different choices for protein, different things. And I've actually done this even with vegans, which is difficult because it's really hard to get enough protein in eating a vegan diet. But we'll put in all the different types of protein choices that they can have, and then we'll start building it out. And you can see I have 6 meals in this plan. Most people I try to get on 6 small meals a day because, again, it's really hard to get in enough calories and nutrients if you're eating just 2 or 3 meals a day, especially if you're dealing with something like Crohn's and colitis. So 6 small feedings throughout the day, which requires some planning. Like I said, you have to prepare your food in advance, have it ready to go. Now you can see on the side, it also adds up our micronutrients, which is our vitamins, minerals, not coming from supplements, just coming from the foods that we're eating. So a lot of times I'll add into people's diet things like spinach if they're trying to lose weight, because spinach is very high in nutrients. It's very high in vitamins and minerals and very low in calories. So if I have a person trying to lose weight, spinach, if they're willing to eat spinach, is a great food to add into a diet. Of course, if they don't like spinach, we have other greens, but we need to get our greens in as well. Now, this also prints out, it'll print out a shopping list for you, so you can take it to the store, and we can track our food by going to our favorites. And you see there's our breakfast, lunch, and snack favorites. Go ahead and click on the breakfast favorites. And you see there's all our breakfast foods are in there. So we want to track our foods. We're just going to click on each one of these things, and it's going to put it into our meal for the day. So by going through, we'll go ahead and click on lunch and just through the favorites. There's our lunch favorites, then we go to dinner favorites, and then we have our snack favorites, which is what we're going to put on our other 3 meals. So there's all our different foods that we can pick from, and we just click on them, and this way we can track our progress and see if someone's actually following the diet, and if we make adjustments to it, we can. Now, I know a lot of people, they'll just wing it. They'll say, eat 4 ounces of chicken or 4 ounces of this, but I find using this program to be very accurate. There's no guessing involved. When I'm working with a client, I know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. It's very easy to understand, and it's an easy program to use. So it just takes a lot of guesswork out. And I don't care how smart you are with nutrition. I personally can't sit there and, in my head, add up all the calories, grams of carbs, proteins, and fats in a whole day's worth of eating in my head and keep track of that. So by using this program, it makes it a lot simpler. So once you have this going on, I'm going to get to the next part. So again, nutrition, you're going to find foods that you can tolerate and use those foods, and obviously avoid foods that you can't tolerate. And what will happen is if you stick to this, you're going to improve your digestion. You'll be able to lose body fat, put on muscle mass, and basically stay healthy. And this is also good for anybody, not just people with Crohn's and colitis, but if you just want to be healthy in general, following a healthy diet is going to be better for you. I am a big advocate of using nutritional supplements. What I mean is vitamins and minerals. And the reason for that is, yes, you can get all that out of your foods. However, if you're on a very restricted diet where you can only eat certain foods and certain types of foods, sometimes you're not going to get all of the vitamins and minerals you need out of just the foods that you're eating. So I'm a big advocate of supplements. Vitamin K, vitamin D, vitamin C, B vitamins. I probably take about 40 supplement pills 2 times a day, including extra multiminerals, desiccated liver pills. And I found in doing this myself, and I've used it with clients, have way more energy, digestion is better, and you just function better. Because again, it's really hard to get all the vitamins and minerals you need in the quantities that are necessary, especially something like vitamin K. It's very hard to digest and get out of food, unless you're eating a really huge amount of vegetables, and even then it's just hard to get. So I take a super dosed vitamin K supplement. Vitamin D, a lot of people, if you get blood work done, you'll find they're vitamin D deficient. So that's a good one to get in there. And by the way, I will mention, I do recommend getting your blood work done, and you can see what vitamins you're deficient in. Also, we have DNA testing, and there's a testing company I work with. They do DNA testing, and through this testing, it'll show you what you're naturally, by your DNA, more prone to needing different types of supplements will fix certain things. Like I found on my own DNA that I don't methylate, I don't get B12 unless it's methylated. So in order for me to get enough B12 in my diet, I have to take methylated B12. And this is a huge thing that is involved in every cellular function in your body. So taking the right supplements is important too. And like I said, I take a ton of supplements, and I can get more detail of that, but I also recommend that you get nutraceutical brand supplements. You can get high quality supplements, but typically, you're not going to find the best quality supplements in Costco, for example. You need to get the best quality supplements you can, and there's certain brands that I recommend. So we can get into that in future videos. But basically, that's how I approach nutrition. And like I said, that has been the key to me being able to continue to train for bodybuilding, keep the Crohn's under control. I still have Crohn's, but it is under control now. Main reason is for the nutrition and the supplements that I use. Another thing I'll mention is rest. Sleep is super important for recovery. This is when your body rejuvenates, and especially if you have Crohn's and colitis, you need to get deep REM sleep. This is when you heal. This is when your intestines heal and everything goes. So sleep is super important. Another thing I want to mention is hydration. Hydration is critical for everybody, but especially if you have Crohn's and colitis, because again, everything is going through you. So getting dehydrated is very easy to do, and it's very bad for you. And I drink every day about 1.5 gallons of fluids. Now, I don't drink plain water, and I'll tell you why. When I drink plain water, first of all, it's hard for me to get 1.5 gallons of plain water down because it doesn't taste good, and I just don't like it that much. But also, water will just flush a lot of vitamins and nutrients and minerals, especially, right through your system. It won't all absorb. So what I do is I mix my water in a big, I have the Stand Effordine cooler, and I mix that 1.5 gallons with about half a tablespoon of Himalayan pink salt, a little bit of no salt, which is basically potassium, and just a teaspoon of potassium. And then I put in there 5 grams of creatine, a full scooper full of glutamine, because glutamine is a main amino acid in muscle tissue, but also glutamine is an amino acid that is involved in your intestinal lining, and it keeps your intestinal lining healthy. So a lot of problems with Crohn's and colitis is you have problems with your intestinal lining. So glutamine is, I found it really helps a lot. So I'll put a whole protein scooper of glutamine in there, which is probably about 25 grams of glutamine. I put in, like I said, 5 grams of creatine, the glutamine, a little bit of aspartic acid, just for the testosterone boosting effect. And I also get these flavored drink mixes they're made with stevia, so there's no sucralose in it. I try to avoid the sucralose. And I'll put those in there. And so basically it's like fruit punch. Oh, and I'm sorry, I also add in essential amino acids. And I'll put in 1 full scooper of essential amino acids in there. Now you're thinking, well, what is that going to do? 25 grams of amino acids throughout the day. Well, I just found, well, it also tastes good. But besides that, I'm drinking this literally all day long. So I have minerals and aminos and glutamine and a little bit of creatine, and I'm absorbing that throughout the day and the night. And like I'll fill up a shaker cup, and I probably fill it up till I finish that 1.5 gallons every single day, and in order to stay hydrated. Now, intra workout and pre-workouts, I use both. Pre-workout, one thing I've learned is I avoid stimulants. Stimulants are really bad for people with Crohn's and colitis. They will overstimulate your system, produce too much cortisol, and I think that will cause flare-ups. So like caffeine, I'm able to tolerate caffeine, but in small amounts. So I use something called NeuroStim, which is a pre-workout that is very low caffeine. It has 175 milligrams of caffeine in a serving, and that's the only caffeine I use. And because I don't drink coffee or eat caffeinated anything with caffeine at any other time but pre-workout, that little bit of caffeine gives me a lot of energy for a workout, and I'm able to use it up during a workout. So I use that. I'll use a pump product pre-workout, just for vasodilation. And then I have an intra-workout. Intra-workout consists of essential amino acids and cyclic dextrins, which I use intra-workout, and I'll just sip that through the workout. This keeps me hydrated during the workout, and also I'm mixing those cyclic dextrins and the aminos with my drink that I've already made that has the salt in it. A lot of people have a misconception about sodium, that sodium is bad. Well, you need sodium because without sodium, your blood won't flow. You basically will have a heart attack and die. So you definitely need sodium in the right amounts. Also, sodium is necessary for hydration. Like the sodium helps draw the fluids through your intestines into your bloodstream and keeps you hydrated, which is why I put the Himalayan pink salt into the drink. It helps to absorb that fluid into you to keep you hydrated throughout the day and the night. So I'll drink that again. And then post-workout, I'll have my post-workout shake, which is I use rice milk, and I use rice milk because it's a simple carb, and this post-workout is something I want to get in quickly. Rice milk doesn't upset my digestion, it absorbs quickly, and it's not sugar. So I use rice milk, and I'll add a little bit of protein powder to it. And I do use a whey protein, and I found if I use it only post-workout, even the tiny amount of lactose that's in there, it doesn't really upset my digestion because I'm only using it post-workout. I don't drink it, I don't eat it any other time during the week except for post-workout. And then, of course, after that, I'll go to my regular post-workout meal, which is, again, more chicken and rice. So that's basically how I do my own diet. Obviously, people that don't have Crohn's and colitis, they're able to eat, more foods. Maybe some things don't bother them, but I think for most people, for general health, even if you don't have Crohn's and colitis, this type of a nutrition plan will keep you leaner, help you gain muscle mass, and be healthier overall. I've had all of my tests done, blood work regularly. I get my cardiac CT scans, everything checked, and everything's sort of checked out pretty good. And I attribute that a lot to the diet that I'm on. At 57 years old, I still can lift heavy weights. I've had injuries in the past, but right now I'm like dealing with pretty much no injuries, no chronic injuries anyways at the moment. So I'm able to train as hard as I want to, and I can recover from my training. So I think I've gave you quite a bit of information. If you're interested in more details, we do personalized nutrition programs at Underground Performance Gym. You can reach us through our website, www.undergroundperformancegym.com, and we can go over all of your nutrition, your blood work. You can get your genetics tested if that's something you're interested in doing, and we can build out a full program, and everything is explained. One thing I want to emphasize is when I'm building out a nutrition program for somebody, there's no guessing involved. There's no just do this because I said it. Everything that we do is explained. There's a reason for it, and it's logical. If you can't explain something logically to somebody, then I wouldn't listen to them. They have to have a logical reason for why, and be able to explain why you're doing what you're doing, and the effect. And the most important thing is that we get results. And I'm very result oriented. Like, I train competitors for competition. What that means is I have to have a person in particular competition shape on a specific date. That means in order to do that, I need to know exactly where they're at, exactly how to control their diet and their training to get them to a certain point on a specific date. And that's very technical and tricky to do, but we do it and we get great results. And I get people in contest condition for many years, including myself. And of course, because there's no guesswork involved, I know exactly going in. We get the DEXA scan done. We know their body composition. From there, we can build out the diet. We can build out the training program and dial everything right in to go exactly where they want to get to. Now, of course, it's up to the individual to actually follow through and do the work and follow the program. You can have the best program in the world, but if you don't actually do it, it's not going to work. At that point, it comes to the individual's willingness and motivation to actually follow the program. But if you're somebody that, like myself, that has digestive issues, this will be a life changer if you actually fully engage into it and embark on this. And also, I want to say that when I build a nutrition program for somebody, I don't consider it, even if we're getting ready for contest, I don't consider it, okay, this is just for contest. This is like a way of life. This is what I eat day in, day out, and I intend to stay, the same for years. Now, by the way, I have been able to add in egg whites back into my diet because I'm not eating so many of them as I was before. So I've been able to tolerate those. But like I said, that's about as crazy as I've gotten with it. So I'm able to add in egg whites with the rice instead of chicken for one of those meals. So little by little, you can experiment, see what foods you can tolerate, what you can't tolerate, and hone it in until you get to the diet you're looking for that gets you the results that you want and that you're comfortable with doing. I think I've covered quite a bit of information today on this subject. And like I said, you can contact us if you want a personalized program. We can build it out for you. Okay, so again, this is Larry Pollock coming from Underground Performance Gym in Ventura, California. You can reach us on our website at www.undergroundperformancegym.com. Also, if you like the video, don't forget to push the like button, subscribe. It helps the algorithm and bring you more content in the future.